I am a warrior. I have answered my nation's call. I am an American Airman. My mission is to fly, fight, and win. I am an American Airman, wingman, leader, warrior. I will never leave an airman behind. I will never falter, and I will not fail.
Welcome back to the Back and Forth Air Force Recruiting Services only live stream. I am Tech Sergeant Greg Cerny.
And I am Senior Master Sergeant Autumn Rose Johnson.
And she's back. We did not scare her away last time. We were not trying to scare her away last time, but we still didn't. Okay, so today's show, if you're used to this format, is all about what is it like when you decide that I want to join the Air Force. Who do you talk to? What can you expect? What happens after you've started talking to a recruiter? What are the different phases? And what is basic training like? While the show is not necessarily specifically all about just basic training, we'll get to those questions. So make sure to have them queued up, put them in the comments section. Obviously, we'll take all your love and care and support and everything you guys put in there. But if it is a question, put a Q in front of it, and we will add it to our queue of Qs and get to those questions later in the show, probably like 20, 30 minutes from now. And until then, we are going to introduce our panel of amazing guests who we have joining us. We have Master Sergeants Twyman, Griffin, and Johnson. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves and let us know what we can expect as far as what y'all are going to be able to help us answer today. Anybody can go first.
I guess I'll go first. My name is Master Sergeant Brendan Twyman. I'm actually the MEPS liaison supervisor. So what I'm bringing to the table is just some basic information for if you go through a recruiter's office, you're actually going to do all the paperwork process, and Master Sergeant Griffin will talk a little bit about that as well. But when you come up to MEPS to do your physical to join, I can talk about all of what you'll do throughout the MEPS process and a little bit of everything we do once you do come up there, and if you have to go through the waiver process as well.
Cool.
Perfect. Sergeant Twyman, could you tell us what MEPS stands for?
Nailed it.
Oh, stole it from us.
I see. Yeah. Military Entrance Processing Station. That's what MEPS stands for.
All right, what is it? What's its purpose, though?
Its purpose is basically all branches are there. So it's not just an Air Force thing. It is actually ran by MEPCOM, which is a department underneath the United States Army. And when applicants try to join any service of the military, even Coast Guard, they come through a MEPS, no matter where they're at in the United States, and they will get a physical. So they're going to get vision, hearing, vitals. They'll get blood taken, urinalysis. They'll actually have a full body physical by a doctor. And they're going to look at all of your medical history. So now there's a program called Genesis, and that is going to look at everything that's happened in your past medical wise. And they just check to make sure that you're physically able to join the military and nothing's going to harm you in the future by you joining the military and going out and doing something in the heat or lifting something heavy and you had some prior leg injury, arm injury, and you didn't say anything. We're just making sure you're not going to hurt yourself by moving forward with the military.
Nice. Perfect.
Cool.
Thanks.
Very cool. All right. Sergeant Griffin, why don't you introduce yourself to everybody out there?
Yeah, I'm Master Sergeant Chase Griffin. I'm part of the 333rd Recruiting Squadron right outside of Patrick Space Force Base in Rockledge, Florida. So I'm a Tier 1 recruiter, so I do all of the active duty enlisted, Space Force, and Special Warfare recruiting. Basically what I do is we bring you into the office, we do school visits, we educate everybody on what the Air Force, Space Force, and Special Warfare is. Go over all the pre-qualifications, and then if you're ready to make that next step to join the Air Force, you come in for your appointment. We fill out all the necessary documents, answer all those questions. Then we set you up for your appointment for MEPS, and we kind of just keep going with that process.
Sweet. 2 questions. Is that your microphone, and is it glowing?
It's very cool.
It is glowing, yes.
I'm jealous.
Yeah.
You're fired.
I'm really jealous. Yeah.
No, but seriously. Next question. Your arm patch, and I'm going to bring it back up on full screen again. Does that say GT?
Yes, it
GT.
does.
What does GT stand for?
Ground transportation. So we do
Okay.
all of the movement on the ground for cargo and personnel. So
Okay.
it's logistics job.
That was
Gotcha.
great troop.
So for context, before I get to the reason that it caught my attention, recruiters typically had a job before they were recruiters, and then they selected or were selected to become recruiters, and that's how they got that job. So you could have another job in the military and then become a recruiter later on in your career. So aside from the point, I saw that and I was like, the patches are actually kind of new. So like mine obviously says PA, and hers, well, see, I did the same thing.
Right side, yeah.
And then security forces, right? So GT, I'm a car guy, so like GT just, I was like, caught my attention. I was like, what's that? I want a GT one. That's cool. So,
and now speaking of multiple career fields, right? Our next guest, right?
Yeah,
She's going to
true,
introduce
true.
herself. She's had a million different careers, right? So go ahead,
million.
Sergeant Johnson. What do you got? The other Sergeant Johnson, not this Sergeant Johnson.
So I'm Master Sergeant Christine Johnson, and prior to being a recruiter, I'm currently the RMA for the 367 recruiting group, and I'm out of AFRS HQ. But prior to that, I was a military training instructor. So I am here to answer all things BMT related.
that is amazing.
Yeah, very cool.
I will do my best to make sure that I use my reporting statements and all that stuff, because I'm sorry, but this is way too official. I look like we're either going to get awards or we're going to get in trouble or something, but like we got this background, it's pretty sweet. There's some other, but yours looks
Sergeant
really,
Billy's got a cool green mic,
really,
right?
really official.
Everyone's
right.
got amazing things, and
Yeah, we're not going to talk about Sergeant Twyman's. Alrighty. So we talked about MEPS. So that's the MEP, or the Military Entrance Processing Station. What are some of the other acronym-heavy things that someone coming into the Air Force could expect to interact with, and what do those acronyms mean?
there's so many.
Like
There's
one that
so
comes
many.
off the top of your head.
Sergeant Griffin, what do you got? You got an acronym in your head?
Ooh, too many of them.
What's a big
I
one?
try to
like
stay
when
away
the-
from them all.
So what happens when an airman or an applicant goes to MEPS, right? They go to the Military Entrance and Processing Station, and what do they do immediately afterwards? They swear in, and what do they become?
It's like a quiz.
So they come into our DEP,
Ooh.
DEP, there
become one
we
of our
go.
DEP
All right, our DEP. What's DEP stand for?
which is the delayed entry program.
There we go.
So
I was throwing you softballs.
What's the delayed entry program? What's the purpose of that program?
So delayed entry program is where once they swear and take the oath of enlistment, they're in our delayed entry program until they either book a job or they leave for their job. So every 30 days, we need to make contact with them face to face. When we do our recruit DEP calls, basically what we do is we go over memory work that they're going to be expected to go to or go over in BMT, basic military training, such as rank structure, how the Air Force works, some facing movements I go over as well as just some of the benefits that they're going to get while they're in the Air Force. So I go over that. That way they're prepared somewhat when they go. And then we just do a little bit of PT for them as well.
Gotcha. Cool. While you have people that are in the DEP or the delayed entry program, are they getting paid? Is the military paying them at that point?
For active duty, they're not getting paid at all.
Okay.
That's the only one I can speak on is the active duty component. So they are not getting paid.
Okay. So they have to actually ship for basic training, and then they start getting paid.
Yes. So,
Correct.
Sergeant Johnson, does
Okay, cool.
the United States Air Force Reserve have a DEP program?
Yes, we do. And it's a little bit different because once they DEP in, they do get paid because they do start working. So when we meet with them every 30 days, they are going to their UTA weekends to do those things.
What's a UTA weekend?
Unit Training Assembly.
Unit training. There you go.
Yeah.
Can
So, yeah,
somebody tell me what happens at a UTA meeting.
I know, right?
That sounds like the kind of meeting I want to go to.
It's a great meeting. So I am a guardsman. So I am an Air National Guard Airman as well. And so Sergeant Johnson and I belong to the Air Reserve components, right? So we have the active duty, and then we have the reserve, and then we have the Air National Guard. So those are our three total force integration components that we have for anybody in our applicants that are looking to further their career in the United States Air Force, right? We're all trained the same. We all go to the same schools, all of that piece. The initial piece of it, when you go and talk to a recruiter, is all the same. We're all going to the same military entrance and processing station, all going through the same MEPS. All of those standards are exactly the same. The only thing that changes, right, is that the Air National Guard does not have a DEP program. So we do not have a delayed entry entry program. It's very similar to how Sergeant Johnson was just explaining with the reserve. So what we have as well in the Guard is that our applicants, right, when they swear in, their contract starts immediately. So their contract will start the moment that they sign it, and they will be reporting for drill. That's what we call our 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year, the UTA days, Unit Training Assembly. And they're going to report for duty, and they're going to, just very similar to what Sergeant Griffin was explaining, how that every 30 days, they're going to come every 30 days as well.
Okay.
And it's to prep them the same way that the DEP is, right? To PT them, right? To make sure that they have some basic understanding of basic military training, what's going to be happening, some facing movements, some rank structures, basically very fundamental training before they go to basic military training. So it's like training before basic military training.
Right, like
and
the prep work.
Yes. It's
Gotcha.
a lot of prep work before they go. So
Okay.
very similar to the DEP program, just a different verbiage.
Okay, cool. So when someone is wanting to come in and start talking to a recruiter, how much of that stuff needs to be done in person, and how much of that stuff is typically done virtually or online or via the phone? More of a curiosity. 'Cause it was like when I came in, there wasn't a whole lot of that virtual stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good question. So most of mine, like all in person, they come in, we do the pre-qualification, then we set up another appointment for the actual appointment to sign everything. When I say everything, I just mean all the documents to process through MEPS. However, I just shipped out my first 100% virtual person. She was a couple hours south of me. So she shipped out today. So she'll be over in San Antonio later tonight.
That's
I
cool.
did hers 100% virtual. Never met her in person, always over webcam, FaceTime, and Zoom. So
That's pretty cool. I mean, like, I know that the world is, there's two different camps to the whole virtual thing, right? Because face-to-face, nothing can really replace that. But then again, that's the mentality for communication that we have, right? That's where we grew up. But there's this whole attachment to virtual capabilities, right? So the ability to talk to somebody, to process something, to get a loan, to order your food, to do literally everything without actually ever having to be face-to-face with somebody, to me, that's a bit bizarre. But if that's your comfort zone, the ability to do that, goodbye. The ability to do that is super crazy. And if it's a comfort thing, I think it's really cool and really important that the Air Force understands that that's something that people want to be able to use as an avenue, and that we're allowing that to happen.
And it's happening
hello
even
again.
more. Oh, hey, you're back. We missed you.
I don't know what happened.
And it's happening more, right? And the Air Force is leaning into that, and they understand, right? Like, so they understand that process, just what you're saying, that we want to make this process as easy and as comfortable for folks, and we want you to be confident in the decisions that you're making. And if you're most confident, right, going through these interim steps, is that, online process, then we're going to work with you. We'll figure it out.
Heck yeah. Cool. Yeah, I didn't know we were actually doing full virtual stuff. That's pretty sweet.
yeah, I mean, it's not very common, but she got referred to me. A military member told her father about me. I think they saw me on my social media that I have out. I always try to post on that to be real relevant in the community that I'm in. They saw that and they really wanted to work with me, heard great things about me. So, I took the chance on that, did everything virtual, and it worked out perfect. So she was one of my better applicants, more attentive and punctual for everything that I asked her than a lot of my ones that live like 5 minutes away from my office. So it helped out a lot.
I mean, I'm definitely much more fun virtually than I am in person.
It's true. It's so true.
She's sitting right next to me, so she can actually say it. All righty. Let's see. I had something else written down here.
You always do. So how about this? We'll talk, this will be for Sergeant Twyman too, but it can be generally for everyone. But how much does a recruiter show you how to do MEPS, right? Like, is there a way to do MEPS and do it properly?
So that's a great question. So before you actually have your visit to MEPS, so like Sergeant Griffin spoke about, you're going to actually meet with them, do all the paperwork, and get ready for MEPS. You will have a MEPS briefing right before going to MEPS. And this briefing is going to talk about if you need to do any testing like the ASVAB, or any type of special testing. We have a TAPAS test, which is actually a personality test. that we are required for the Air Force, they should go over all of that. What are the steps? And so what we do as a MEPS station is we like to bring up all of the recruiters and walk them through what an applicant actually does. So your recruiter should be actually spun up on what each MEPS does that they use. So when you go up, they can describe it to you. What's a day at MEPS like? Starting from when you wake up bright and early at the hotel, getting on a shuttle, coming over to the MEPS building, they check you in, take your vitals, do your height and weight, do your vision, hearing tests, and then you do the physical with the doctor. And then if you make it through and you're qualified for the Air Force, then you come over to the liaison office. This is where my NCOs are. And that's where you're going to kind of get spun up for, hey, we need to fill out the rest of the paperwork because you're going to get sworn in today. We need to go over jobs. What jobs do you qualify for? If we have any, our MEPS, we actually book jobs. So things like that.
We knew it was coming.
I just saw,
we knew it was coming.
I saw it. Yeah.
Two things. One, we'll pop that
so,
back up on the screen. But also, Sergeant Griffin, if you're not on the screen, we can still hear you. And your microphone is really good.
Sorry about that.
As you were moving around, I was like, what is shaking? Can someone tell me about the Legos on Twyman's back? So I'm going to absolutely let the subject matter expert take this away. The only thing I want to know is I have never seen the one in the top middle on any Star Wars movie ever. So please, I got to find out where that Easter egg is. But introduce us to
Are you
your
talking about
one or the blue one?
No, the Titanic.
Oh, the Titanic. Oh, yeah. No, it's not a Star. Yeah. So there is a Titanic up at the top, and that's not a Star Wars one at all. I have a mixture. My entire office is surrounded by Legos. So I have a stack over here. I still got a
point. Can you flip the camera?
Yeah.
Can you show us?
Let me see like that.
It's kind of a mess, but yeah, I can try.
Oh, it's fine. I mean, as long as you don't mind.
Yeah. So
No,
it's fine. So I don't know if you can see. I've got the Star Destroyer over here hiding. I usually have that in the middle of my room.
Amazing.
So that's
dope.
That thing's huge. Hold on, let me turn around. Now I'm
This
gonna.
is my favorite.
I feel like I'm like welcome to my crib.
So good.
Welcome to my crib.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Dude. So you've got,
I love that we both are like, oh my gosh.
Holy cow!
This
You're
is
not
amazing.
kidding.
where's that? Oh, there goes the sand, and then I've
Look
got
at all the helmets
over
down
here.
there. You got Black Panther
Right
up there. Whoa.
Groot in the
Yeah,
back,
so I'm
baby
about to fill
Groot.
that up.
That's Yoda. That's baby Yoda.
Yep. And then
So
on this
good.
side, I've got the NASA
Oh my
stuff,
goodness.
and got the.
Oh my goodness.
Those are so legit.
Well.
Yeah, sorry,
So-
I'm moving around too much.
No, it's good. It's good. So my 13-year-old is.
Felt like I was on
huge.
MTV for a second.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of felt like we were the same reaction. We're like, whoa! My 13-year-old is huge. His name's Jason. He's huge into Legos. And he's in school right now, so obviously he's not watching live, but they like to watch the show later in the afternoon. And I'm definitely going to, okay, hold on, let's see what's it, 18. So roughly 15 minutes in, I'm going to make sure we zip forward to 15 minutes in.
Same.
And
My
I'm going to
son,
show
he's got
him,
the
and I'm going
same
to be
whole
like,
thing.
Yeah.
check out these Legos.
Well,
I'm
building the Pac-Man one, and I've got a Concorde jet I'm about to build, so I've got a few of them ready to go that I got to put on shelves.
That was very cool. Thanks for sharing that with us, Sergeant Twyman. Those are very, very
Yeah,
cool.
no, that's
Wow.
that is my nerdy hobby.
No, it's great, right? So but that's a whole piece, right? Like people don't know, you can still be an airman and still have hobbies and still be you and still get to pursue all these very cool things.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
Clearly, that's not
And have enough time to build.
A non-time consuming hobby to have, right?
No kidding.
So, very cool.
That is a lot
Absolutely.
of time and effort into that.
money.
And also, shout out Sergeant Griffin, other Sergeant Griffin, so the guy that actually commented in there and then said thanks. Shout out. He actually used to work here in AFRS down here in San Antonio. So,
Oh yeah.
photographer. Yeah. So, thank you for taking us on a tour of your Lego crib. I feel like we should probably start making that
thing.
the best background guest gets to give us a tour of the room or whatever.
What do they win?
What
could they win?
I don't know. That was it.
Yeah.
The spotlight for all
That
of
was it.
4
Yeah.
minutes.
That was it.
Spotlight.
Pretty sweet.
That's what it
Okay. Let's get back to Air Force
Reel it
stuff.
back in, yeah.
Where Legos are really
Yeah.
cool.
A bunch of nerds.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so I had a question, and we're gonna keep hunting for Sergeant Johnson. She has abandoned us, and there's a huge hole in our hearts and on our page. So we'll just wait for her to come back, and we'll all just be quiet until she gets here. I'm just kidding. So when you guys went through MEPS, and this is for anybody who's here, so MEPS and the delayed entry program and talking to a recruiter the first time, what major differences have you seen that have happened to that process between the time you went in and now, and which do you think is better and why? And anybody can take this one.
I'll speak on that being a MEPS.
Sure. Yeah, go for it.
So one thing too, I don't know, you guys remember the underwear Olympics? Where you had to be in a room full of a bunch of other people, and then you had to do the movements and squat and walk, squat and everything. The duck walk, yep. So they don't do that anymore as a group. You actually have a one-on-one physical with the doctor now. So there is no group physicals anymore. So if anybody's nervous about doing any of that stuff, don't worry about it, because everything's 1v1 with the doctor. And then also too, before you could, I'm not saying people did it, but people would maybe hide stuff from the doctors if they couldn't see it. They were like, I don't have anything, I'm perfect health, and there was nothing there to actually to prove that. So they would be like, yeah, you look good to me, and they would join the military. But now with Genesis, there is stuff that people were finding out, and people were like, no, I don't have anything, and then things come up where they have, an inhaler for an asthma or ADHD, things like that. So then we have to address those concerns for the doctors to make sure that it's still not an active issue.
Gotcha. So definitely more cohesive when it comes to information and kind of getting the medical background and getting someone's qualifications up and either approved or disapproved. It definitely expedited that for sure.
Correct.
Sergeant Johnson, welcome back. We missed you. We were basically just kind of talking about the difference. Of course. We were talking about the difference between what the process of joining the Air Force was like back when we joined or when you personally joined, and then versus what it is now, and whether it's better or worse and what the biggest differences are. So if you've got like a cool story or something that you have, you could even talk to basic training. What changes have you seen, positive or negative, that that basic training has experienced since when you went through?
Definitely quality of life.
Okay.
Training quality of life is much better now than it was when I went through. Communications with instructors, much better than when I went through. It's safer.
That's true, yeah.
There's that. I think those are the pretty heavy hitters.
Those are big heavy hitters.
The dormitories as well, the bays, the buildings themselves are, we have some beautiful new state-of-the-art BMT buildings that are just, it sounds so strange to call them absolutely gorgeous, but they are absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
Right? Like
I'm jealous. I drive over to Lackland. I'm just like, what? Where was this stuff when I was here?
It does. It seems silly, right, to call that, right? Like that you get this mentality of what it's supposed to be. And it isn't, right? Like, in just the fact that, Sergeant Johnson was just talking about the communication with instructors. That is a huge piece. And this is we're kind of going off script, so sorry for that. If you can kind of just touch base about how much more, right, that you're able to communicate, right, when you are going through basic military training versus, what people have, right, I said like that mentality, but it's that stereotype that we see in the old movies, or what, Uncle Jimmy used to tell you at the Thanksgiving dinner table. Back in my day when I went through BMT, this is what we did,
We called it boot camp.
Yeah, we did a boot camp, and, my drill sergeant was so scary, and, he had 2 hairy lips, and, and... just outrageous stories that, and it's very much not even a little bit like that anymore. If you could just kind of paint a picture of what you mean when you discuss communication is better between TIs than from when back in the day, or MTI, excuse me.
I like the way you lined that one up.
Yeah. Well, it's better between the instructors because coming out of 2012, it became a team sport instead of an individual sport. So you had to work better with other MTIs in order to have a more productive flight, or a more, a more outstanding flight, or whatever it is, or had to have your airmen turn out the way that you really wanted them to. But also, the communication between the trainees and the instructors has progressed, because back in those olden days that we talk about, where the two hairy lips, or however you want to put it,
I haven't heard that.
that was a very look, me neither.
Right.
That was a very MTI centered BMT. It was more about the MTIs than the trainees and the processing of trainees and building quality airmen that we were going to hand over to the Air Force. But now it's a very trainee centered training, which is the way that it should be, because we're trying to make airmen that the Air Force can utilize, and they, set them up for success so that the Air Force is successful.
Sure.
So there has to be a level of communication, comfortable communication between an instructor and a trainee if you're going to get a trainee to become an airman safely and the outcome that you want it to be.
Sure.
Yeah, I love that. I like that you kind of changed that dynamic, that it is a team sport, right? That you're not just pushing people through, and it's not just all about, the instructors themselves, but it's a team sport.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. But when we talk about the difference between, because whenever I went through 20 years ago or whatever it is, and then those instructors were trying to have a high attrition rate. It wasn't about how many you could get through. It was about how many you could scare out or hurt out, right? That doesn't help the Air Force. So there's that.
Yeah, that's fair. Cool. All right. Well, I think this is about the part of the show where we get into the back and forth of the questions with the audience as a whole, with all of our viewers out there. There have been a ton of comments coming through. I can just see them streaming by. So we have got a bunch of them already selected, and we'll start putting them up on the screen. And that is my about 15-second warm-up for the producer to pick one and throw it up there on the screen.
And that's why I need to put my glasses on to read the screen.
Oh, these are my favorite glasses. I am going to steal those one of these shows.
So I put an
awesome.
Instagram post, and I put it on, like, who wore it better, me or the guy from Up. So I won, but it was like by very small margins. It was definitely the old man from Up.
Nice. Oh man. All right. Can you please cover OTS OCS going from enlisted to commissioning? All right. Who can take that one?
Sergeant Twyman, I don't know if you had a few of these when you came through. Did you have any at all?
No, I mean, so we dealt with enlisted side. So that's I guess the beauty of recruiting is that there's so many departments in the Air Force and so many opportunities that there's actually different sections. So officer candidates, officer training school, they're all different aspects. We have ROTC, we have the Air Force Academy, different aspects of that. So we're probably not the experts on that. I don't know, have you guys had any officer recruiters on here in the past?
We have, yeah. We've actually had an entire show for officer recruiting that specifically we had an officer recruiter guest that helped us out with a lot of those questions. And I don't want to take away from this question because I do want to see if we can get an answer. And I know we do have a recruiter in the box over there. Sergeant Kenyon, you got anything to shed on that one? I'm putting you on the spot right now.
It's going to be different for each component.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Let's see.
So the answer is Sergeant Kenyon.
So we've actually got a recruiter in the box where if you're a longtime fan of the show, you know Major Lane from the background is no longer with us. Womp womp. But, greener pastures and all that and retirement. And apparently there's things to do with your skill sets once you get out of the military. But we have Master Sergeant Kenyon back there who is helping us out as well. So I've unmuted his microphone now. And he was starting to say something that sounded way better than what I was going to say. So I'm going to turn it back over to him.
So it's gonna work differently for each component that you're looking to commission within. So let's just say, in my experience, it more falls with the Air National Guard. So if you were looking to, as an enlisted person, go ahead and commissioned within the Air National Guard, there's actually application boards that you'll have to go through that application process for. And then once you earn that position, then you'll go through your training school after you're selected for that. Gotcha. Of course, it's going to differ from different skill sets. For example, if you're an HPE or if you're going to a line officer position, it's going to differ for the different processes there as well. So I can't speak fluently for the Reg F or the reserve on that aspect, but you'll want to reach out to your officer recruiter for those components for the specifics.
All right, perfect. And I think that was
So-
Alejandra asked that one. If that answered your question, let us know, and if not, let us know, and we'll see if we can maybe get one of our moderators that are. In
I
the
can
chat
kind of
to
speak on going from enlisted to OTS a little bit, because
Okay.
I talked to about it with my applicants, because I've got applicants that come in with their bachelor's degree and master's degree that want to commission, or they already went through that process of, hey, I've got my master's degree, I've been waiting for a year to try to get picked up for a commission, however, I haven't gotten selected yet. So when they come in, they're interested in that, I tell them what they can get when they enlist, and they can still commission through enlisting. So I go over the NECP, which is the Nurses Enlisted Commissioning Program. I go through ROTC, like getting picked up to go to ROTC to finish out their college to commission. And then just the OTS boards for the Air Force and Space Force, kind of how that process goes a little bit for them. Because once they're in, they can start applying for those once they're a year out from getting their degree. Then they just have to finish their degree to get picked up before they go to OTS. Other than that, like there's the SLECP, the Senior Leader Enlisted Commissioning Program. There's those two different ones they have for that, and then get picked up that way as well. So I do cover that, but there's so many of them, because you also have all the medical ones too, Medical Service Corps. You also have Physician's Assistant, and then you have the Medical Preparatory, I believe, to become like a doctor. So there's quite a few of them that you can go through. However, I don't go into super amount of detail in them, because there's a lot that goes into them, and I'm not the SME for that. So I don't want to go all into that. I'll let them do a lot of the research for that specific one that they want to do once they come in.
Gotcha. I got to give you props though. I can tell you're like pulling stuff from memory, and a lot of those just programs and stuff like that. That's a lot of stuff to remember, especially if it's not your area of specialty. So mad props. Definitely a lot more information than I could have given on that one.
But we have subject matter experts that are designed just for that specific program, right? So just like how that question could have been interpreted in a handful of ways, right? So if you had an enlisted to officer, right, meaning they could have been a prior service from a different, like a sister service, right, from a different branch, looking to come into OTS and become an officer for the Air Force, right? So that's a whole nother different program. Or if you're talking, you have an active duty airman that is looking to become commissioned, through 3 different types of components. Those are all, again, different sort of levels of people and subject matter experts as well. So we do have people
for
that are
that-
specifically just for that.
For that OTS information, it's going to be on the AFRS website as well, what you need for your package and everything like that.
Yes.
The rest of it would be through your education office.
If you're an active duty airman, yes. If you're an active duty airman,
Correct. Active
there's
duty,
that.
yes.
There's
Yes.
that Air Force website right there.
There
down
is
there
also-
in the right-hand corner. Go ahead.
No, I would say
come
there
back
is
to it.
also too for those anybody that's in high school too that's maybe looking for the Air Force Academy. If maybe you don't get accepted and approved, if you go on the enlisted side, there's the LEAD program, which is Leaders Encouraging Airman Development. That's what that stands for, and basically that goes unfilled every year to where if you get selected for it as an airman, you actually go to the preparatory school on the academy property for a year. If you pass that, then you get accepted as a freshman to the Air Force Academy. So there are several opportunities, just like Messer and Griffin was talking about. So definitely do research, and then reach out to, if you're just trying to go OTS, reach out to those specialists.
Yeah, and I mean, just as you were saying, there's so many ways. If being an officer is what you want, there are so many ways to navigate that, right? And you literally have 4 people that are recruiters by trade, and there are so many programs to be able to move forward to become an officer, whether it's in active duty, Air Force, Guard, or Reserve. Just as you were saying, there's ROTC, the Academy, straight commissioning, medical corps, there's so many out there. It can be overwhelming for the folks that are on this piece, and to get that's why it is important. And we always say this on back and forth, right? Talk to a recruiter, speak to a recruiter, get in front of that, right? Get in front of that and talk to those recruiters, because those are the ones that will get you in front of those subject matter experts. We know a little bit about a lot, right? But we aren't those people that are going to run and navigate that program and that application for you. We have people.
Somebody who can.
Yes, we have people. That's all they do. That's their job. That's what they're paid to do. So we have people there literally waiting for you to reach out to them.
Facts. All right, next question.
All right, I'll read it since
Okay.
I got my fancy glasses on, right? Can you explain the difference between going in as an officer versus a normal recruit? All right, we got a lot of officers questions this evening.
Officer versus enlisted.
Officer versus enlisted. So what is the difference, right?
And we'll
What's the
start at the
difference
most
between
basic. Yeah. Pun intended.
it? Yes.
So I would say, as a normal recruit, when you're enlisted, you're basically coming in with no trade, no experience at all. You learn your trade in tech school, technical training. You learn whatever it is, the job that you're going to go do, and then for that next year, you're going to be basically doing your upgrade training for the next year to get certified on it. You're not expected to supervise anybody at all the first year, at least. You're just there to learn your job. When you come in as a commissioned officer, you're expected to lead multiple people. Usually start out in a section or a flight where you're leading or commanding at least anywhere between 50 to 150 people at one time.
We'll take that one.
Yeah. Someone's showing up. We told them to show up, and they're showing up for you.
That's right. And so Sergeant Griffin is actually in his recruiter's office right now. So it does happen. People do walk in. So, and you have to take that? We need to let you go?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay, cool. Please carry on. You're like, I was done.
So, I think I was done with that. But other than that, I mean, you do have to have that 4-year degree in order to come as a commissioned officer. Enlisted, either your GED if you meet the criteria for that, or just a high school diploma. So
and you can still join enlisted if you have a degree. You could have a doctorate if you wanted to. If you want to join enlisted and that's the job that you want to take and you want to pursue, talk to your recruiter. Tell them that that's what you want to do. That's also what's really important is, obviously, you're going to have a ton of questions for your recruiter, but you should have an idea of what you want to do and have a basic understanding of what you're trying to achieve. And you can get a lot more fulfillment out of your service if you have kind of an idea of what you are wanting to personally achieve, whether it's a specific job or a specific experience, or whether you want it to impact your future more than, whatever. So know what you want out of it and express those to your recruiter, and they'll probably be able to set you up for success a lot better.
Right.
So.
And there's two ways too. So like when you are coming through this process and you're looking to prep for those the tests, right, that we kind of talked about, you have to take the ASVAB for the enlisted folks, right? So the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery. That's what ASVAB stands for. So you have to take the ASVAB, and then on the officer side, if you'd like to become an officer with that 4-year degree, you have to take an AFOQT. So the Air Force Officer Quality Test, I think that's
We're
what
not
it stands
officers.
for.
Qualifying
I forget.
test.
That's
Never
qualified test. I think that's what it is, right? So
Qualifying.
the AFOQT and then the ASVAB. So enlisted, ASVAB, AFOQT. Now the difference between those, and this is very important for folks to hear out there. When you take the AFOQT, you can only take it twice in a lifetime. Right, that's it. So if you failed it that first time, no pressure, right? You get one more shot, and that's it. So everything we always say, everything is waiverable. That is one thing that nothing's impossible. It's just not the most probable that you are going to get any type of waiver on that third try for the AFOQT. So just as Sergeant Griffin had addressed, when you're coming in as an officer, it's your responsibility when you first walk in, you're going to be taking the lead, period. That's the role of the officer versus the enlisted. And then the ASVAB, I'm going to have you guys kind of touch that base about the ASVAB of, a little less pressure, on the passing, the failing. Obviously, we want folks to do as well as they possibly can, but if you could touch base on what the ASVAB, right, the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery, why is that keyword aptitude in there? Why is it so important and prevalent that the ASVAB is taken for those job qualifications? And how often, I'm asking questions when they're not even asking questions, how often can people actually fail that, or can they fail it?
Yeah.
Do you want me to take that, Sergeant Griffin, or do you want to do it?
Yeah, you might be better at it because you're up there. At
Both of you
MEPS.
take it. Why don't you both?
Okay.
Why don't you both chit chat?
All right, yeah, no.
Preferably at the exact
We'll do it at the same time.
and
We'll go
see
back
if we
and
can
forth,
Over
hear
each
back and
other.
forth
Yeah.
between each other. So the ASVAB is basically, I want to say it's unlimited, but there are time frames with it. Okay, so say you take it and you either fail or you don't like the score that you got. You have to wait 30 days to take the next one. After 2 times, on the third one, if you say you're like, hey, I want to try again, and you get done with the third one, and the third one you're like, hey, I don't like this. And then, well, now your that timeline of 30 days extends out to 6 months, and then it goes to a year. So it's not like you can just keep taking it every single week. It'll start to have where it extends it longer and longer. The minimum to get into the Air Force is a 31 overall, but the importance of the aptitude part that we were speaking about is there are 4 aptitude areas when it comes to looking at jobs for the Air Force on the enlisted side, and that is the mechanical aptitude, the administrative, the general science, and electrical, or we say MAGE, or however people want to say it. But there are certain scores for those aptitudes to get into certain jobs. Now, the key part of aptitude is this test is seeing where are you, I guess, best fit for jobs, because we all have those people that come from outside worlds and they're telling you should go medical, you should go maintenance, you should go become security forces, you should go do this and that, and they're telling you what they would want to do. But this test really kind of puts it into perspective of what are you good at and what should you succeed in, and the test actually puts that in there of where do you fit best and where will you succeed the most in. So you might come in thinking like, I want to do medical because, maybe somebody in your family was a medical person in the military, but then you take the ASVAB and it shows that you have a crazy high mechanical score. And we see that you would actually succeed on the mechanical side better than a medical side, or on the administrative side, or something of that effect. So that's why it's important to take that test, and we really look into those individual components to dictate what jobs you would be better suited for.
Sure. So think of it like a personality test for your customization
Absolutely.
Air Force experience, right? So even if you don't really know what you're good at, you can take this test and it'll tell you where you excel and where your tendencies for performance are. And then they can basically tailor, like, hey, people with high mechanical will do better in these jobs than people with higher administrative will do better in these jobs.
So it's really funny. So when I look at my MAGE scores, the MAGE, everything's pretty high. It's not too bad, right? But the electrical is horrible. It's like a 20, right? And so it's actually quite funny because, right, if someone tried to explain, what's the difference between DC current and AC current? I'd be like, I don't even know what the words are saying to me. Tesla, I don't know. What is the difference between these things, right? And so, but that's the whole point, right? That aptitude piece is just how we're setting everyone up for success, right? How Sergeant Johnson talked about we're a team mentality, that we're trying to set these folks up for success. When you're coming in, we move the goalpost closer for you, right? We're moving that line closer for you to succeed. Whereas just Sergeant Twyman was saying, just because those outside factors are saying, hey, this would be a best fit for you, if your brain is not hardwired that way, you're going to struggle, right? So if I was dead set of saying, you know what, I want to be an electrician, my mom, my dad, my uncle, and Jimmy down the street, told me I got to be an electrician, and lo and behold, my electrical scores are just rubbish, and it makes no sense to me. I'm not setting myself up for success, and I'm not doing a service to myself, and I'm not doing a service to the Air Force. So that's why we sort of involve these tests of these pieces of it. So yeah, that's it. I think that's all I got.
Okay, cool. I was just saying, Jimmy from down the street. Needs to
Jimmy
keep
from
his
down the
mouth
street.
shut.
I always got Jimmy.
Doesn't know what he's talking about. Life coach is not his
Jimmy's
role.
the worst. I got a whole web series about Jimmy.
His life coach is not the role. All right, so Hopefully that one beat that answer up. Let's get another one. If you take JROTC, I can words, will that help you with the Air Force?
Ooh, this is a good Sergeant Johnson question.
That's a great
Not
Sergeant
this
Johnson
Sergeant Johnson,
question.
the other Sergeant
The other
Johnson.
one. Because we have to contend with you and Jimmy down the street.
Me and Jimmy, yeah. What's your guy?
All right,
No.
Sergeant Johnson, we'll take you while we got you. I see you trying. We're playing hide and seek with you earlier.
Right. I know I'm fighting for my life over here.
So, what are the benefits of JROTC prior to Air Force?
My honest opinion of having received junior ROTC individuals, there's no benefit.
Hot take. Okay.
Wow,
So you're
hot
telling
take.
me, I know we're not doing this officially. I'm surprised. Tell me why. Like why? What makes you say that?
I think it gives them a false sense of how the military is actually run.
Okay.
And the way that they do their young force structure in the junior ROTC program, it doesn't correlate. Like the way they earn their rank or the way that they earn their medals or do those things. And quite honestly, I would rather have a blank slate. A blank slate as far as, somebody who doesn't have. That's the player that I want if I'm a coach, right? I can build you from the ground up. You don't have any bad habits that I have to undo, right? And drill is definitely one of those things you got to learn to undo.
I can imagine. So I'm equating that to, I remember in basic training, and anytime I've ever done weapons training, the instructors are the most thrilled when they get someone who has never shot before. And they'll do that like on the day one, right? They'll beat you up on the line, you'll be out on the range, and they'll be like, all right, who here has never shot a gun before? And they're like, everybody else take a step back. And then they're like, who's never even held a gun before? And like, there's like 4 or 5 people, and everybody's like thinking, oh, they're going to stink today. They're not going to do that good. No, I'm better at them. And then the instructor will point at those 4 people out of like the 50, and he'll be like, I got $100, says these 4 outshoot the rest of you all day long.
And here comes Jimmy down the street. Pew, pew, pew.
And he misses every single shot because he's been shooting since he was 2. No, but seriously, it's the quality of instruction. And not to say that the experience isn't valuable, obviously, right? But the amount of control and the amount of precision and time and energy that goes into military training is powerful, right? The amount of effort put into our training programs when it comes to teaching someone how to do something, the Air Force does it second to none because we've been practicing at it for a long time. And simple as when it comes to shooting. I was taught to shoot from a very young age from my dad, My dad was prior service military, not Air Force, so he's not that good. But, I had a lot of experience and a lot of time around firearms. So I was very comfortable coming in. And it took a bit of relearning some old habits, not necessarily bad ones, but I had a preconceived notion of what was right. And I already had a chip on my shoulder going into this experience, whereas the person to my left could have had 0 experience, and they were just absorbing this top-tier, highest quality training for the very first time without ever having to reset anything. And I think that's kind of goes hand in hand with the JROTC thing, is if someone comes in with, I have, I'm not saying you have to have a chip on your shoulder just because you have the experience, but I can understand how a fresh slate can be the potential for a higher performance output. So I'm glad that you said that because it's nice to be able to actually hear someone say that instead of just airing with what you would consider, any experience is good experience. It depends. Take from that ROTC experience, from that JROTC, man, I'm struggling with that one today. Take from that experience what you know is going to benefit you in the military, and be open to the fact that you might not be learning things the exact same way once you put the uniform on and you're under oath. Because when you're in high school or you're in college, you're not. It's not the same situation. You're not held to the same standards. You're not held to the same accountability level. And you're also not exposed to the same quality of training. So keep that in mind. Next.
I will put on there the 2 on that one is it's not a full-on bad part. Is if you do have it, make sure you let your recruiter know, because that does get you rank and money when you join. So if you have 2 years in, you come in as an E2 automatically. If you have 3 years or more with a certificate, you come in as an E3 automatically. So rank means money. So make sure you're bringing that. I agree with everything else. I was just wanted to plug that in there.
No, that's great. I mean, got to have both sides for balance, right? So we got Sergeant Johnson over here being like, hey, I'm going to bring hot take in here and tell you my personal experience, my personal opinion, which is great, and I appreciate it. And then Sergeant Twyman coming in and being like, hey, but don't forget, if you don't hesitate to do it, like take the experience, but just be open to it and also make more money. So.
But just, yeah, I mean, and just as Sergeant Johnson said, you want them to be coachable, right? So remember that, you know, junior ROTC is not your end all be all, right? Like you still need to know, you still got to be coachable. You still got to be learning how to be an airman.
All right, let's throw that question back up there. Sergeant Johnson, you can take this one.
I'll read it, but this is going to be Sergeant Griffiths because he already hit the SW world. What is the max age to join Special Warfare Air Force?
So that would be the same age as joining the regular Air Force. So you have to be 39, or at least you have to be 39 and ship out before your 40th birthday. So the only problem I see coming in with when you're older is you're probably more likely going to have more medical problems coming along just because you're getting older.
I can attest to that.
Other than that, you still have to meet those minimum standards, the same standards that everybody's meeting when they're, 18, 19 years old. So you still have to meet those qualifications to become special warfare. So.
Yeah. And with saying with that too, is that in the Air National Guard, typically a lot of our applicants for special warfare are usually a little bit older. They're not usually that 18 to 24 age range. Our people are usually a little bit older, have a little bit more life behind them, and they are a little bit more broken. But they also have the mentality and the resiliency to be able to push on. So special warfare isn't always just necessarily your physicality, right? It's your mental and your emotional resiliency on top of that physicality piece of it. So if you talk to any operator that's out there, they're always going to say, yes, it is a very physical demanding role. The pipeline is extremely physically demanding. It's like nothing you're ever going to experience in your entire life, but it is 100% that mental and emotional grit, and if you can gut it out.
Yeah.
And if you've got that mentality and that will and that want to do it, if you got the will and the want, man, we'll figure it out. We'll get you in shape.
Yeah, it's know what you're signing yourself up for.
Yes, sir.
If you're almost 40 years old and you want to go play SW games,
oh yeah, yeah.
you have to be a beast.
Yeah.
So I hope you can run really, really fast and keep up with people almost half your age. Well, actually.
Literally
They
half your
literally
age.
half
Yeah,
your
literally
age.
half your age.
I don't want to think about trying to keep up with a 20-year-old right now. That's nuh-uh. That scares me. Next question. We're just going to run away from that one.
Oh, yeah, hit it, ma'am. No, hit it. Let's hear it.
Go for it.
I was going to say, one of the interesting things about that, though, is people who are a little bit older have higher passing rates because they have the mental fortitude to complete the challenges, as opposed to someone who's young and may not have as much life experience.
Fair. But when you say older, how much older are you talking here? Because I'm talking twice the age.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, like 39 is,
I would say probably like late 20s, early 30s. Those guys are really competitive.
Sure.
In that field, in that area.
I'll buy that. I'll buy that for sure. Okay. All right. We'll let that one slide. That's fine. 40-year-old trying to be out here. I mean, they do it too, and it's incredible, but it's not fair. Is the ASVAB required to be taken again if prior service? Picking your brains. Appreciate the info. Well, you're absolutely welcome, LinkedIn user. Hopefully that's not your real name. That'd be really unfortunate. But if you were prior service, do you have to take the ASVAB again, or can you take the ASVAB again to get higher score or maybe a new job?
So there's a difference in there. I'll take this one.
Sure.
If you are prior service in an Air Force component, you do not. If you're Air Force to Air Force, you don't have to. But if you are coming from another sister service, then you have to. If you ship to basic training for another sister service and you're trying to join the Air Force, then you will have to redo the ASVAB. But
Gotcha.
it's different when you're going from like Air Force active duty to like an Air Force Reserve, Air Force Guard component. That's a different story.
Okay.
And if you are also a sister service and you're going to the Guard or the Reserve, you do not need to take the ASVAB over either. It's not mandatory. You can if you want to, just as Sergeant Cerny was saying, you can if you want to get a higher score and have more opportunities for positions, but you don't have to.
Can you, I should probably know this one, but can you take the ASVAB later in your career if you want to change jobs? Or let's say, for example, like if you want to, like if, let's say I wanted to go pick I don't know, just find something that's a higher ASVAB score requirement than PA, and I wanted to go to that. And I didn't have the cutoff for it. Like maybe I barely met the cutoff for PA. And if I wanted to do something else, would I have to pass the ASVAB with a qualifying score, or would I just not be eligible?
Yeah, you'd still have to retake it in order to qualify for that job if you want to retrain into it.
Gotcha.
So this is the other thing too, though, is that if you are currently serving, you're currently wearing a uniform, and you hold an AFSC and a skill level, an Air Force Specialty Code, an AFSC, if you're holding that skill level and you take the ASVAB, and if you get a lower score than what you originally got, now you are no longer eligible for the job that you are currently doing. So you do need to get commander approval. Right, you usually take it over at your education center, but you will need to get commander approval to take your ASVAB again for whatever reason, because you literally just tested yourself out of your job.
I ain't as smart as I once was, kind of thing.
Yeah, literally.
Be like, oops. All right, cool. All right, let's get the next question up there.
After passing medically and passing the test at MEPS, how long is that official for? So how long is that?
Assuming nothing changes.
Yeah, assuming
right?
nothing changes. Yep. So you pass your ASVAB and you pass
That's a good
medical.
question.
That's a
Yeah.
great question. That's a fantastic question. How long is that all good for?
It is 2 years. So the physical is good for 2 years. So as long as you haven't changed anything. So if you've had any other medical stuff, the physical is still good. However, you would have to submit medical documentation up for anything new. So if you had any surgeries or anything like that, you would have to submit that specific incident to the doctor at MEPS, and they'll review it. They'll either give you a cleared, or for that issue, that's where they would have to send you up to see if you get a waiver. But the physical is still good for 2 years.
Gotcha. So is it still apply for tattoos? If that is all locked and sealed and you get a new tattoo, do you still have to go talk to your recruiter about that? Is that still a thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just asking. I mean, it's been a hot minute since I did it, and they told me that.
Yeah. I don't know if Sergeant Griffin was, but when I was on the bag, I always told any of my DEP members, like, hey, if you decide you want to get a harebrained idea of going to get a tattoo or a piercing, please ask me first, just in case, because anything can disqualify you if you get it in the wrong placement or it's too large in a wrong area. We would rather you not disqualify yourself or something like that. But yeah, I mean, you can still have tattoos in the Air Force, and they're a little bit more relaxed now. But yeah, you definitely don't want to put yourself in trouble after joining.
If anything changes on you medically, or if you change the
go
way
along with
you
that
are.
question too, is you're only allowed to be in the DEP for 1 year. So if you're in it for 1 year, if you're over 1 year, you have to get DEP discharged. Then you can go up there and get DEP'd in again. But if you're in the DEP for that long, you probably should have already left for a job.
Okay. I waited for mine. I was in for a little over a year. I don't remember where I have to do anything or if I changed or whatever. Also, cool note, and also super bad attention span. Actually ran into my recruiter a couple weeks ago. Hadn't talked to the guy since the day I shipped. And then obviously here I am working in Air Force recruiting headquarters, and it's a very, very small career because y'all know each other like a whole other level. I thought PA was small, but he knew my old supervisor, and then there was an email chain that my name was on, and he was just like, hey, how do you know so-and-so? And then all of a sudden this guy just shows up in my office, and I'm like, it was like traumatic and also like super exciting at the same time because I was like, what the heck? It was just this wild experience. So that's kind of cool. Anyway, story time's over. Next question. Can I go to college while serving? Yes, 100%, and you should, because if you don't, you're wasting the opportunity. We will pay you to go to college. We'll pay for it. Actually, we'll get to this at the end of the show again, but the next show we're doing in 2 weeks, 2 weeks from Tuesday, 2 weeks from today, Tuesday, 2 o'clock, yeah.
17th.
There it is actually all on education benefits. So tune into that show. It is going to be 100% packed with all the coolest stuff. And I'm talking like, you could, even if you're in the military now, tune into that show, because I'm learning so much every single time education comes up and we have people that can talk about education. Everything from like CLEPing to the tuition assistance programs to what it's like to, what the difference between the different bills were and when it changed. Air Force Cool, certifications, how much really you're getting when you're going to school and what those programs look like. It's crazy. Like, if you don't take advantage of the education programs in the Air Force, you are missing out. And I'm talking hundreds of thousands of dollars.
It's not even missing out. There's some, you can't even promote in certain pieces, right? So if you don't have education, right, if you don't have your associate's degree as a minimum, you can't even put on, what is it, Master Sergeant, E7? Right? Like, you can't even.
Senior.
I think
senior. It's senior. Yeah, E8, excuse me.
Yep. So, yes, 100% resounding yes. You can get more education, and we highly encourage it. As a matter of fact, you'll be rated throughout your career, and one of the big considerations, when I say rated, you're basically graded, they do evaluations and stuff every year, and one of the huge considerations is whether or not you personally pursued additional education. And the Air Force will help you do that. But that's a big part of how people get promoted, is by continuing their education, because the Air Force sees you taking advantage of the programs that they're giving you access to, and they see you bettering yourself above and beyond what they're already teaching you. Yes, 100% yes. All right.
Can we add to that too? That once you enlist in the Air Force and Space Force,
I'm kidding.
Once you enlist in the Space Force and Air Force, once you go to basic military training, you're already enrolled in an associate applied science degree for whatever your career field is.
True.
So you're going to earn college credit whether you want to or not. Then you're just anywhere between 4 to 7 classes away from getting your associates in applied science. So you're getting it whether you want it or not, which is pretty awesome.
That's right, and I'm glad that you brought that up, because the Air Force is fully accredited, right? Yeah. So that's a huge piece, that we are fully accredited. All of those can be transferred over to a 2-year, 4-year degree.
Yep.
And we're the only service with a community college as well.
Yes.
Currently,
yes.
So.
Watch out, Space Force is coming. They're going to get their own space academy, and I'm going to be jealous.
Space camp.
All right. What's the BMI limit? Would a trainer help me get there if I don't meet the requirements before boot camp? And I think I just stole this one from you.
That's okay. That's all right. That's right. All of these just changed. Remember that, guys. So
yes.
I say that. So I think Sergeant Twani would probably maybe the best one to answer this for the BMI piece of it, because it just changed. What is it for?
And while we get Sergeant Twyman to answer,
if we can hit that for male and female.
Yeah. And we'll also do some research on this as soon as we go full screen for you.
Yeah, no. So the BFM did just change recently. So max is 26% for males, and for females it is 36%. And now we do have a conditional DEP program that was just initiated not too long ago. And what that means is, say you're not qualified for the Air Force, but there are certain circumstances where we will allow you to still swear in to the delayed entry program under a condition of you will lose weight, you will get approved by the medical waiver. There's a higher chance for you to get approved for like a certain condition. But if you are up to 30% for males and 40% for females, you can join the conditional DEP status. Now, when it comes to getting personal trainers, that's essentially what I wouldn't say a recruiter's for. They're there to monitor your progress. In the Air Force, we want to make sure that you're taking it upon yourself to do what you need to do to be in the Air Force. And the Air Force is a small military branch. So if you go to an Air Force recruiting office, you may only see one Air Force recruiter, and you go next door and there's 6 Army personnel in that recruiting office. We kind of are expected to do more in a bigger aptitude, I guess if you want to say it that way, where we're expected more out of us. We don't get our hands held. We're expected to run our business, if you want to say it that way, for your mission, and you're treated more like an adult. So we make sure that you go out there. But we would offer that in the local areas. Sometimes there's gyms that are offer discounts for people joining the military. It just really depends on where you're at and where you're joining. There may be those programs, there may not be. So it might fall more on you than having something around. I don't know, Sergeant Griffin, if you have something available to kind of bounce in on this too, if you have something in your local area for that.
No, yeah, we have a lot of local gyms here that'll help people out if they are going to boot camp soon or they're trying to qualify for the Air Force. They do give them discounts and whatnot. One thing that I was doing every Monday, I was just doing PT with all of my DEP members to help them, manage their weight and whatnot. And that was until I got injured and had to get my surgery. So I had to start re-upping that and do it every Monday again. But we just come in
That's
every
always
Monday. We
fun.
do a little bit of PT for about 30 to 45 minutes, and then, we call it a day. So.
Gotcha. I pushed the button, nothing happened. Then I pushed it again and something happened. Otherwise, we were just staring at Sergeant Griffin and he's just like, man, I'm done. You can change the camera now. I had something. Oh, yeah. So we don't necessarily spend a lot of time, and we try not to talk about how we're better than any of the other services, but that's because we don't have to. Next question.
Can you talk about the difference, or if there is a difference between Space Force and A Force and the Air Force?
You're doing great back
I'm
in the
doing
up
great,
here.
right? This is how we're so much better than everyone.
We can
because
A
we
Force.
can A Force. Can you bring the question back out?
A-Force.
What's the difference between Space Force and Air Force recruiting process?
What's the difference?
So
Well, I
for
can
me
tell
as a
you that the-
recruiter,
Got me.
I
Go
can
for
say
it.
that the only difference is I figure out what they're interested in. If they're interested in IT, cyber, or if they're interested in intelligence, I see if the Space Force is one of the routes that they want to take. Because if you look at majority of the Space Force jobs, that's what it is: IT, cyber, and intelligence. So I see if that's what they want, and then I push them towards the Space Force if that is. The only other process that's different in it is they have to submit an application or a questionnaire. Basically, like they list all these questions down that the Space Force is asking, like what kind of leadership experience do you have? What are some of your goals? Stuff like that. You have to fill out that application. It has to get submitted into your AFRIS, which is the system that we use for recruiting, and it goes up to the board. So for the Space Force, you also go up to a board of senior non-commissioned officers in the Space Force, and they'll give you a recommendation to join or not. If you get a highly recommend or a recommend, you're more than likely going to book a job to go into the Space Force.
Gotcha.
So,
Cool. All right. Next question. Can someone from another country apply for recruitment? There are some qualifiers.
There are some qualifiers. What do you got, guys?
Not all at once.
Well, Sergeant Griffin, if you want to take that one, since you might, I don't know if you've dealt with that recently.
I've had a couple. You have to have your what people call the green card or the INS 551. It has to be the 10-year card, and it just has to be the 10-year card. You can apply for it. You can apply for the Air Force with that and still get in.
Yeah, it's your permanent residency card.
Yep.
So your permanent residency card is what you need, right? So, and the only thing that's going to kind of be a little bit of a caveat that's a little bit different is that there are certain jobs that you can't do not being a U.S. citizen, and that's because of security clearances. So, and then also the other piece is that you are not actually allowed to re-enlist in any of the components if you have not become a United States citizen. So if you come in, you're a permanent resident, and then you serve with us for 4 or 6 years, whatever your initial enlistment is, and after that initial enlistment, if you have not re-enlisted in that time, if you have not become a United States citizen in that time, you cannot re-enlist. And that, again, the encouragement is also the process can be streamlined as well to be a United States citizen while even going through that process. So actually Sergeant Johnson, did you ever have anyone when they were at BMT, did you ever have anyone that went through the process of becoming a citizen when you were an instructor down there?
A lot.
A lot. Can you talk about that real quick?
So they give you the opportunity to obtain your citizenship while you're in BMT, and then on the day of the Airman ceremony retreat, they get to swear in and
That's
become
cool.
U.S. citizens
That's
that day.
cool.
That's pretty amazing. That's pretty amazing. I've been
It is.
I've been to so
It is.
many. So when I was, we call them production recruiters in the Air National Guard. You guys, the active duty side calls it enlisted accessions, right? So same job, same thing. We're doing the same exact thing, just different little verbiage. And when I was a production recruiter, I became kind of like the subject matter expert for our non-citizens, right? So that's why I'm like, it's an INSN 555 and permanent written, blah, blah, blah. And so, but I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Going to people's naturalizations was probably one of the most, sometimes it even got me a little more than even their basic training graduations, that this person is willing, not only are they willing to serve our country, right? But there's just this, I don't even know how to explain it. It's like this new love. They're so proud of the opportunities that the United States is giving them, and they're so grateful for it, and they're so happy to become a part of it. And it was really, really something so incredible. And I loved it. I absolutely couldn't get enough of it. And it was a very special time of being able to see those naturalization processes. And the other piece too is that naturalization is extremely expensive. It is a very expensive process. And when you have your permanent residency card, if you do become an airman and you go through the process Sergeant Johnson was just talking about and going through that naturalizations at basic training, that's free. You're not paying for that. So it is a substantial amount of money that you would be saving to become a United States citizen.
Yep.
Substantial. We're talking tens of thousands of dollars. Substantial.
Yeah. Talk about making a really cool experience even more impactful.
Yes.
Get your airman's coin and become an American citizen at the same time.
Right? Like, it is something, yeah. When you see these people like raising their right hand to serve, it's one thing when you're raising your right hand to serve the country, but then you're like, I'm serving this country.
Also because it's my country.
Because it's my country
That's
now.
cool.
This is my country now.
All right, let's throw that question back up there. That was a solid one. I don't know if that was on purpose or not. Completely not on purpose. No. But let's real fast. We'll fire them off. So there's 5 of us, and the question was for the top 5 things. So everybody come up with one thing. I'll go first, and it's because we've talked about it before multiple times on the show. Fitness. Make sure that you are comfortable with your current fitness. And I don't mean like, I feel comfortable in the condition that I'm in now. No, be ready for the upscaled fitness. Be ready to run 2, 3, 4 miles, quickly. Be ready to do a bunch of push-ups and, sit-ups and make sure that you're not injured. So make sure that your physical fitness is probably better than it's been in your whole life because they're going to test it. And number 2, Sergeant Johnson.
Number 2, so know that you're going to have some serious, oh my God, what did I just do moments, right? And you're going to have it, right? And be okay. It's okay that you're going to have those oh my God moments because I promise you, even the MTIs that are your instructors, when they were little baby applicants moving into that realm of being an airman, they had those moments too. Every last single person wearing this uniform that has earned this uniform have had those moments of being like, what did I do? What did I get myself into? Why did I do this? There's an easier way to get college. And so having those moments, it's okay. Give yourself some grace. Let it know that it's okay that you have those moments. And we are there as a team, and we are there to help you succeed and for you to become a United States Airman. We are setting you up to earn that uniform.
Yep. Sergeant Twyman, what would your number 1 be?
This might be
you can't steal ours, but not your
might be
one.
Might be a plug, but the Aim High app that the Air Force has developed for delayed entry program members, I highly recommend you download that because it has tons of information. If you don't know how to work out going for BMT, like he was talking about fitness, there's a lot of knowledge-based stuff in there to learn that you need to know before departing for basic training. You'll learn it there, but it's better to already have it in your head before you go because when you get down there, they're going to be throwing a lot of stuff at you. So it's better to have that knowledge already in your head. And it's good for families too because it's a free app. If they download it, they actually will take random photos of the flight throughout BMT. And there's a section in there where your family can look up your flight number and they can see random photos of your flight going through basic military training. So it's a really cool app, and I highly recommend downloading that before you go.
It's
Yeah.
very cool. So, Sergeant Tommy, and I'll give you a fun little fact about that app. It was always originally designed just for families. It was
Yeah.
always designed for our family members to be able to do exactly what you were just saying, so that they could keep interaction with their BMT members, so that the family members knew what was going on with them. And it has now evolved so that our applicants and our folks can actually utilize it too. So it was always done that. So great plug. It's
Yeah.
it's a huge tool. It's a huge tool. It's amazing.
And it doesn't really it's not designed to benefit the Air Force. It's
No.
designed to benefit people who are joining the Air Force and people who are in the Air Force.
Yes.
So it's 100% free app. We haven't plugged it enough on this show. We talk about it. We even, like I said, we built that whole page for it just because it's such a big deal, and there's a ton of effort that goes into not only making the app, but also maintaining it and modifying it and keeping it updated and making sure that it works with the hardware. So definitely check that app out. It's a huge resource. Sergeant Griffin.
It also helps you find a recruiter.
And
Yes,
also,
it does.
there isn't there a recruiter locator on the AIM High app?
Find
There
find
is.
your recruiter.
Yeah.
Find my recruiter.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to plug that app in too, because memory work was the biggest thing. When I came in about 15 years ago, I left for boot camp in December of 2008. My recruiter out of Emporia, Kansas, gave me a little paper with memory work on it. Basically, all I did when I got that was throw it away when I got out of his office. In that app, you can go in there and do all the memory work. So learn the rank structure, learn the Airman's Creed, learn the Air Force song. I would say do that 5-10 minutes a day, and it'll help you out tremendously,
100%.
because you won't have to stress that when you're there, being like, oh man, I don't know what the Air Force song is. Like when I was at boot camp or basic military training, I got caught lip syncing the Airman's Creed. So I got called out in front of everybody by my MTI, got yelled at, and then I had to go practice it for like an hour and a half, just like standing in the wall, just staring at it, and then had to go back to him and recite the whole thing like 5 times to him. So I let all my recruits know, like, hey, this happened to me, so you probably shouldn't let that happen to you. Just get in there 5-10 minutes a day, study it, and you'll be fine. It's just one less thing to stress about.
Yeah, that's valid. Anything that you get given and someone tells you, work on memorizing this, work on this memory stuff, do not throw that information away. Like, not mentally, don't throw it in the physical trash can. Memorize that, because you talk about stressful. It's a lot of information, and eventually it'll all go in there. But when you're high stress in a new environment and you're trying to figure this out, and it's a stress level you've never really been exposed to before, it's a little different to try to remember some of that stuff. And rank structure, if you've never been exposed to rank structure before, that can get you. Like a poem or a song, those are easier to memorize because they flow and it's got a feel to it and a story. Rank structure, it makes sense like algebra did the first time. It just doesn't. Until you figure out how it makes sense and what the formula means, it's just some weird stripes and some weird looking emblems with some words attached to them that don't really make a whole lot of sense at first. So definitely spend some time with that. All right. We were only saving you for the last because it's about your stomping grounds. What would you say, Sergeant Johnson, is the most important thing a new recruit can take with them to basic training?
Okay, well, I'm gonna hit 2 because the
Please
previous person foot stomped on the Aim High app.
That's okay. That's okay. I love it.
So I would say physically, make sure that you pack appropriately. Whatever your recruiter tells you is the pack list. If you are able, get as close to that as possible and try to stick to that as much as possible. Mainly because of the climate. Sometimes you see a lot of trainees that come down and maybe they might come from a warmer climate and come to Texas in the colder months, not realizing how cold it can get in Texas. And they've only brought shorts or flip-flops or something like that. So if you could get as close to that packing list as possible, I think that's great. Mentally, I think one of the things that people don't take into consideration when they go into basic military training is the mental fatigue, because of the fact that you are entering an environment where you will never be alone. There's no such thing as privacy. You are never by yourself. So it's much harder to decompress. I noticed that the trainees that come from larger families, multiple children families, thrive a little bit better because they're used to it. But if you're used to spending a lot of time alone or being able to go in your room and shut the door and shut the world out, that's not happening. So just really try to mentally prepare yourself for the fact that there's no such thing as privacy.
Gotcha. Those are solid. I like that.
Those are great.
Yeah. And then I'll do one bonus one, and then we'll move on to the next question. No, seriously, but this one's really
hear it,
cool.
let's
Not
hear
only have we done a whole show on this one, but it's one of those where like you just don't think about it until you're there, and you get halfway through basic training and you realize that that's an opportunity. Whether or not you are religious, take advantage of Sunday morning time, right? So they give you time to go to service of your choice, or you can just go with your friends and spend some time. That's about the closest time you'll get to privacy.
Or
That
decompressing.
or that decompression time where no one's going to be up your, just no one's going to be mad at you. No one's going to be all in your case about you didn't do this right or you didn't do this right. You get a couple minutes of just quiet and you can decompress a little bit and reset and then head back. Take full advantage of that. I did not take advantage of that as much as I should have, and I regret it because when I'm just like, oh yeah, no, I'll work on this thing. The job's going to be there when you get back. It's kind of funny because there's a link to everything basic training to the real world Air Force. The job is there when you get back. It's kind of like leave, right? You take leave. You're not supposed to stress about your job when you're on leave. It's going to be there when you come back to work. Same with your area that you live in when you're in basic. Your socks are going to need to get folded. Your bed's going to need to get made. The floors are going to have to get scrubbed and swept and cleaned. The job is still there. So go take care of you so you can get back to business when you're done. So take advantage of the Sunday morning stuff. It's really, really, really powerful to help reset every week. So next question.
I got a question for you.
Oh boy.
Did you cry the first time you went to Sunday service? Integrity first.
No.
Integrity first.
So-
Sergeant Griffin already set the bar. He already called himself out about how
Trust me.
he lipped.
Listen. If you ask the right questions, I will give you the answers.
All right.
But I won't. I promise you, I will not lie. No, I did not. And I joined a little bit later, so I had a kind of a better grasp on it. I was not surprised at how well I handled it, but I could see what the benefit of a few extra years and having some life experience gives you when you're going through basic training. When you've experienced stress and you've experienced concern and real life worries as a grown adult. I was married with kids by the time I joined. Yeah. So I kind of had a feeling for a lot of this stuff. Right. And so the first time it was more of like, wow, okay, that's better for 47 seconds. And then it's back into it. But no, I did not cry. I don't know if I'll figure out a way to tell the story, but I have gotten got.
You have gotten got.
My got story is in there. You'll have to figure out a way to ask someday. But if you ask the right question, and it's not just tell me your got story. You gotta ask it. But I have broken in the Air Force at least one time. It's the most memorable time.
I'm soft.
And it was during training. It was during training, and it was something that got me that I did not see it coming, and it got me, and it was just like, wow, like a kick to the chest. And I've been kicked in the chest before too, and it felt worse than that. Like knocked the wind out of my patriotic sails or whatever. I
feel like that should be our new question. Like, what did you get got? I want to hear around the room. Do we have time for this? I don't think we have time.
We don't
for
have
it, though.
No, not today. Not
next
today.
round. Next time. We're gonna add it onto the questions.
You guys will have to come back for the show next
got.
time for sure. Yeah. We'll just have a whole show called Got. The back and forth got.
Well.
I don't know. We'll figure something out. But yeah, there's your bonus point on the back of that one. Take advantage of all that stuff. And that's solid advice from everybody. Going into basic training, you're going to have advice from everybody. Don't listen to everything, but listen to everything. Don't take everything that everybody says as 100% gospel truth. But there are some solid advice out there. And your recruiter is going to be your single source for the most crucial information that you can take going into basic training.
You know who you don't want to listen to? Jimmy
down the street. I knew it.
Jimmy down the street. You don't want to listen to Jimmy down the street. That guy's the worst.
Yeah. All right, let's knock out a couple more of these questions before we roll out of here. All righty.
All right. How long does the enlistment period last? I think what Kevin may be asking is, is how long are the enlistment contracts? I think that's what
we can answer that question.
Maybe asking. So what do we got? How long are the enlistment contracts?
How long can you join?
So for active duty, your enlistment contract is either a 4-year contract or a 6-year contract. If you do the 4-year contract, after you get out, you're still going to have that 4 years of inactive reserve to where, you could be called back to active duty if there is a time for that. If there's a draft or anything like that. Then if you do a 6-year contract, you have that 2 years of inactive reserve attached to the back of it.
Gotcha. And then re-enlistments are cool too.
Mm-hmm.
Is there?
Yep.
Is the cutoff like once you hit 12 years you can indefinite? Is that right?
I believe it's 12.
Yes.
Okay, cool. That's what I thought. But you can re-enlist for like.
So for the,
Go ahead.
I was going to say for the reserve, it's different, right? Our initial enlistments are always 6 years. There's no option to that.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And that used to be the rule for the Air National Guard, and we just changed to 4-year contracts as well. But you have to be very careful, and you got to read the fine print on everything, right? That's always the way, because 6-year contracts with the Guard and the Reserve are often going to come with enlistment bonuses, or affiliation bonuses. So you have to be very careful, because if you're coming in for a 4-year contract, most of the time they're not being associated with those bonuses. So make sure that you're asking those questions to your recruiter. And again, we also put in the mind frame is that it's a 4-year or a 6-year enlistment contract with the United States Air Force of active duty, and that's 365 days, where when you're joining the Guard or the Reserve and you're joining a 6-year contract, you're serving for 39 days a year. You're 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year. So when you do the math, not including your basic training in your tech school, when you're doing the math of 39 days times 6, it's still less than 1 year that you're actually reporting for duty.
Boom.
Yeah.
All right. Last question.
Ooh,
Make it a good one.
The pressure.
Nope, I don't like that one. Try a different one.
Get out of here. We're
Just
hitting
kidding.
this one.
Just
All
kidding.
right. So I have been looking to join either the Air National Guard or the Air Reserve. I'm a little unsure as to which would be best for me. Can any of you offer some guidance? Sergeant Johnson's. I did the plurals right for us because I'm a nerd. Sergeant Johnson's.
All right, take it away, because there are some crazy perks to
Hit
both.
it. What you got?
Well, the main thing for us is the transferability. So, since we are a subsidiary of Big Air Force, we kind of operate a little bit similarly. So you're going to find a reserve wing on most active duty bases, and then, some actual standalone reserve bases. But we're not state affiliated. That's the biggest difference.
Gotcha. So when you say state affiliated, what's the difference between state affiliated and not state affiliated? Because there is a difference for Guard and Reserve, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What's that
Master Sergeant Johnson? Senior Master Sergeant Johnson?
So the Air National Guard, right? So when I always tell people, like, why would you choose one service or branch or component amongst the others, right? And it's always usually about culture, right? That usually tends to be the driving force, right? You just know what feels and fits good to you. It's like your sports team. You know which one that you prefer. Do you like basketball versus do you like baseball? You just know. You may be super athletic, but one just is a better fit for you. And that's sometimes what is the driving force, is that culture component, right? And then the other piece is that part-time, full-time piece with active duty and the Guard, right? And then in the Reserve. And then the other piece too is also location, right? So location and that ease of location to you when you have to, because if you're going to be a part-time, right, in the part-time component, sometimes being to a closer location where you're living can obviously be very convenient. So location sometimes is also a huge driving factor. Now, with that being said, as Sergeant Johnson said, that every majority of Reserve stations are either attached to an active duty or they're standalone. Where in the Air National Guard, we have a Air National Guard unit in every single state and 4 territories. Period. It happens. It's literally every single state has that. So when she's talking about like that state affiliation, that's what she means is that they also can be attached or affiliated with an active duty, or they could be standalone as well. Now, when she's also talking about that big Air Force piece, right? That it's that that piece of the big Air Force. We are all, right, as our uniforms, they all say U.S. Air Force on it. You wouldn't know unless you looked at our patches, who's Guard, who's Reserve, who's active duty. The training is all the same, all of that. It's just that we additionally have a federal mission, but we also have what is called a domestic operation mission, meaning that we're going to get into a history lesson. This is where I get into. I'm gonna start speaking Latin now. So if y'all hit out last week's, he was the king of Latin. So we've got. Right, so we have that domestic operation where when there is a natural disaster, civil unrest, or God forbid there is an attack on American soil, the Air National Guard and the National Guard, the Army National Guard, they're the ones that are called to active duty, right? They're the ones that are called to be able to come to the needs and the assistance of the United States American citizens within that state, right? So federal troops cannot perform in those duties. That's not what active duty or the reserve is designed to do. The United States Air Force and the Reserve are designed to keep our enemies at bay. And we do that the best in the entire world. And we will continue to keeping our enemies at bay. And we are the ultimate air power of the world, and we are the ultimate air power that the world has ever seen. And the United States Air Force will continue to keep doing that mission. And so what that's going to happen is that we as airmen, right, guardsmen, we are still going to do that mission on that federal level, but we are going to have that domestic operation as well. So we are trained in two suits where we are going to be there for our American citizens and be supporting that federal mission the United States Air Force does. And that comes directly from, right, it comes directly from the United States Constitution, right, from the Second Amendment, all of those things, but it's habeas corpus, right, of that, there's my Latin, habeas corpus, and it's that, it's so that federal troops, right, so that we're protected, that the federal troops can never come in and be too large and take over our state's governments, right, so that we are protected. We work for the American people. We are the governors of the United States Constitution. We protect the United States Constitution. And we take that very, very, very seriously. Every single airman that's in this uniform takes that very seriously. And with that being said, that's why the Air National Guard and the Army National Guard are designed on that state level. Boom.
Mic drop.
I could do a whole history lesson about this.
Oh my goodness. There was like a point in there where like I was looking to see where you were just picking up that excellence from and just like loading up with it. I was like, jeez. It's like getting a motivational speech in here. But one of the cool things about the show is we make sure to cycle our guests and even our hosts. You guys have noticed, if you've watched multiple episodes of the show, we've had active duty, we've had guard, we've had reserve. And we try to make sure that we cycle that through because the Air Force is going through a shift right now where we are really branding everything together as what we call total force, right? It's putting everything together where the same way you would look at any other major brand, you think of their icon and then you think of all their products, right? No longer is it one of those things where we're going to send you out to go do something that's reserve based and it's going to be a reserve specific thing. It'll be an Air Force thing, and then inside the Air Force is the best fit. That best fit is where the recruiters come in, and it's where this show is designed to be a step in that direction. And we say it all the time, multiple times during the shows, is go talk to your recruiter, right? When you talk to your recruiter, you need to take to them that I'm thinking about joining the Guard or the Reserve, but I don't know the difference between the two of them. I don't know which one's the best fit for me. Which one do I do? And then they'll be able to ask you questions to be able to have you know what you want out of the result. Do you want to stay in the same place? Do you want to serve this kind of way? Do you want to travel more? Maybe RegAF, the regular Air Force, full time is a better option. Maybe it's not a better option. Make sure that you go in with an open mind because that recruiter is going to be able to take all of your input and then formulate a plan for your service future that fits you like a glove. It's a completely custom fit. And the Guard, the Reserve, and RegAF all have options to do those things. So take all that stuff to your recruiter and make sure that whatever you think you want out of it, don't sell yourself short.
Yes.
Make sure that you're getting what you want and what you need out of it. And if you don't feel like you are, keep asking questions because the opportunities are there. You just got to make sure you stick to your guns, make sure you stick to what you want out of the deal, and you'll get it. So, all right. I think that pretty much wraps it up for us.
I think so too.
I think we're good.
Our table, do you guys have any last comments, questions, concerns, last thoughts?
I'd say with my big thing would be is don't let anybody get in the way of you doing something like this. There's a lot of people out there that'll tell you you're not good enough or you can't do this, you won't make it. I've had a lot of people that I brought into the Air Force through the recruiting side that were told these things, and they are winning Airman of the Year, Airman of the Quarter. They're the best versions of themselves these days. Some have already gotten out of the Air Force and they're making six figures working in these high-end companies because the Air Force provided those expertise for them. So don't get in the way of yourself and don't let other people get in the way. And make sure you save time to build some Legos. That's all I got to say.
That's great advice. I love it.
Love it. All right, and we're not going to throw it on the screen, but I saw right before we closed out comments, Paul, I saw your comment. I read it real quick. Don't worry about getting to 80%. Get to 100%. Go talk to your recruiter. I saw what you were talking about with Genesis in there. Don't stress it too much. Go talk to your recruiter. There is a way to make it work. I promise you, if you were seeking any kind of medical assistance for something like that, that is something that the Air Force will absolutely be able to work with you on. So go talk to a recruiter. Genesis is not a bad thing. It's growing pains for sure for those of us that are used to an older system, but the newer system is actually really cool. And once we get it down, it's nothing but beneficial because it links all of the medical stuff together, which is actually a positive thing. On that note, 2 weeks from now, Tuesday, 2 o'clock, we will be back. We're talking all things education benefits. And when we get into that stuff, I saw education questions today, so y'all better be back next time and bring us the hard questions because these are the smart ones. We got to ask them all the tricky questions. So bring all your education questions, learn all about what the Air Force can give you when it comes to education. Even if you want to turn like a 4 or 6 year commitment into a college degree, like there's a way to do that. And it's incredible. And that's just on the enlisted side. We'll talk all the education stuff for the officer side as well. Bring all your questions. And I'm going to give a huge shout out because we don't get a chance to do it very often. But Ray and Pam in the comments, those are our moderators. They're in there typing out those huge answers to a lot of your guys' questions out there. Thank you for you guys' help. I see some of the like books that y'all are writing in there. We couldn't do this without you. So thank you, Ray. Thank you, Pam. Appreciate you guys. Everybody else out there, we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Bye, guys. Thanks for tuning in.
We hope that you enjoyed this episode of the Back and Forth brought to you by Headquarters Air Force Recruiting Service. It is a privilege for us to bring you all the information and insider insight into the exciting world of the United States Air Force. Remember, this show is all about you. We want to make sure we're providing you information and answers you need to make an informed decision about your future. So make sure to join us every other Tuesday with your questions, your feedback, and any ideas you have for future episodes. We are all ears. Don't forget to subscribe to our social media channels for even more exciting content. And also visit airforce.com for all the latest information on serving as a Total Force Airman. And with that, until next time, aim high.